Hey everybody, welcome to another video. I thought it was a perfect time to finally do my Inferno video for the X-Men, the Uncanny X-Men Inferno. And this is specifically the 1989 version, which is, I believe, issue 239, 240, 241, 242, and I think 243. Like Follow the Mutants or Mutant Massacre, this is a crossover event back in the 80s that kind of follow where they would go from X-Men, X Factor, New Mutants, which were pretty much the three X books at the time. The funny thing is, it's still mind-boggling today. Whenever I look at these and I see how many limited series there are and how many crossover events there are, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, like I said, back in the 80s, you can look up, go to Marvel, go up on like Wikipedia and just look up Marvel crossover events 80s. I think it comes up with like a list of them, and it's just funny because there's not that many of them. There's pretty much Gang Wars, which is Spider-Man. There was Kraven's Last Hunt. There was Follow the Mutants, Mutant Massacre. I'm talking about ones that span multiple comics. Like Dark Phoenix pretty much stayed almost self-contained in X-Men, but as far as crossover events, and especially crossover events particular, like, you know, the Gang Wars is pretty much all the street level stuff, just like the Gang Wars that's going on nowadays. You had Daredevil, Punisher, and Spider-Man, I think, were the three main ones. And then, of course, when they did Kraven's Last Hunt, they had Web of, Spectacular, and Amazing, and they would cross over amongst those three comics too to do that event. There was also the one I read after, I can't remember what it was, the Mad Dog one. I can't remember what that one was. But not a lot of them. I mean, literally, you could count the amount of crossover events from the 80s on two hands. I think, as far as the X-Men go, in the X books, it's pretty much Mutant Massacre was the big one. Because you had X Factor and you did have New Mutants at the time. I believe it went into New Mutants. You know, I can't remember. I wasn't a huge New Mutants reader back then. For me, it was pretty much X-Men and X Factor. I got some New Mutants here and there, especially when Brett Blevins, did the art for the ones for Inferno. So I'm also going to stay primarily focused on just the X-Men issues for this one. I'm not going to talk about the lead-up in other books, especially with like the Demons and Ileana Rasputin from New Mutants and her kind of arc. And I'm not going to talk about the X Factor arc as well, or the Exterminators, which is kind of like a micro series or mini series thrown into that. But the thing is, there was a lot of events going on, and a lot of things were happening at this particular time when Inferno hit. And I always use Inferno, for me, it's always the benchmark of the end of the 80s for X-Men. Whenever I think of Inferno, I think of it's the end of the X-Men. And the reason why I say that also, it's kind of funny, is so I've got the collected, the Essentials, where they collect those issues in black and white, which I gotta say is awesome as an artist, is to have these in black and white. But this book goes up, the last story in this book, I believe, is, if it's not, I think, yeah, it's the last one, last issue of the X Factor, because it has all of them in it, so you can follow the whole story. But that's the last issue of the book. As you can see, there's the cover. It's got covers, both covers from Inferno on this, and this is volume number 8. As you can see there, volume number 9 is the start of I call the start of the 90s in the Jim Lee era, and it's funny because the version of this, this Essentials, it goes for like $100. I don't know if it does. I got to look up and see if it's still going for that much. But I was trying to pick it up to continue the run of Essentials, because I got them from the beginning, from back to the Giant Size X-Men with volume number 1, and it's impossible to find number 9. because it's got all the Jim Lee stuff, and that's the stuff everybody goes after. So, again, it just like I was mentioning in the X-Men '97 video, people really love '90s X-Men. I think that it was popular in the '80s, yes, but it was still comics just in general were still kind of fringe at the time, and I think a lot of people paid more attention to Spider-Man in the '80s because of all the Secret Wars and the black costume of Spider-Man. People were really into Spider-Man, and of course, at the end of the '80s, as this was going on, is when McFarlane, jumped on and started doing Amazing, and then the first appearance of Venom. So that's right in the same year, in 1989, as this was going on. Actually, it says it started in '88. The end of '88, I believe, was the in Inferno Ignite was December of '88, and then '89 January kicked in with Inferno. So I always, like I said, it's for me, it's the end of the '80s is the Inferno, and as I mentioned before, my favorite time in X-Men comics was the run of were all the issues done, specifically this time the late '80s into the end of the '80s of Mark Silvestri. And it's funny reading this comic again and watching the show, the new show, and then watching the show, the '90s show, and then really thinking about it and looking at the story, especially the story in Inferno, which this isn't a synopsis. This isn't like a blow-by-blow. I'm not going to show you. I'll show you some of the pages, some of the key moments, but this isn't really necessarily this is what happened in the story video. Just read it. Just go and read it. There's only 5 issues to it. They're relatively easy to find. I know my original copies that I got off the spinner rack when it came out in '89, who knows where those went. Somebody got a hold of them. I traded a bunch of stuff. I sold a bunch of stuff, yada, yada, yada. And then I rebought them again. I had this, and then I rebought them again in like I don't know, 10 years ago. I rebought them because somebody had them in a package for like $10. So you get all 5 issues for $10. I was like, sure. And then I ended up reselling that on eBay for like $30 and made a profit. So, I had them, and then they came and they went. But again, I'm hoping that they're going to do facsimiles of the Inferno, especially if you follow the Mutants Inferno comics. And here's the reason why I say that, and this is why I'm going reading is this is what I've come to this realization, spending a lot of time thinking about it. I've come to grips with the fact is, and I've said this to people before, and they disagree with me, and and they're like, how can you think that way? You shouldn't think that way, blah, blah, blah. But I really don't care about the story. As long as it's not bad, that's all I care about. As the story's just all out terrible, or there's things in the story that I don't like, then I consider, even the art can't save it for me. And this is, I guess I'm guilty of the exact same thing most of people were in the '90s, especially with Image, where it was all Image. It was all show and no go. It was all about fancy art and highfalutin art, and there was not much about the stories. And I guess I'm 100% to blame, I can't say anything about those people who said that, because for me, it's the same way. I'm all about the art. It's what I do for a living, is doing comic book art. And it's always been, my greatest passion is drawing comic book characters and doing the art and everything. And like I said, for me, it's all about the design of everything. And the tech, and, the aesthetics of the art, all of that stuff, the costume design. So I guess when I get irritated, like when they change something, or they change something to a way I don't like, it's not necessarily that I don't like the way the story has been changed, because I really don't care. Like I said, I don't like when they take a character and they really, break the character. I don't like that. But if the character is relatively close for the most part to the the character, it's good enough for me. For me, it's all about the look of the. I'm all about the visuals, about the look of the character, the look of the art. Who's doing the art on the character? Whose version? And I look at like little things of why does that artist draw that particular part like that, or that outfit like that, or does the hair like that, or does the lines around the eyes like a certain way, draws eyebrows a certain way, draws eyes a certain way. To me, that's what I'm passionate about. So that's where I'm coming from when I say this. So people who are saying like, oh, well, the stories were stupid back then and they're stupid now. Sure. I can't argue with you. You know what I mean? I have nothing to argue against. Because, like I said, I just read the X-Men Inferno again, the X-Men issues, and the story, frankly, is pretty stupid. It's like late 80s fantasy, weird. Like it didn't even have to have the X-Men in. It could have just been its own like fantasy story about goblins and demons. And there could have been this love triangle between certain characters. Just filmed. They could have put any characters in those spots, and it wouldn't have mattered. And the reason I wanted to bring up Inferno 2 now is because this is Friday, just after the premiere of the 2 episodes of X-Men 97, and from what I've heard, because I have not seen episode number 3, but from I heard people who saw sneak previews of it, or saw it already, that next Wednesday's episode 3, is going to star Mr. Sinister, who was like the lead baddie in, for the most part, he was like the big kingpin in Inferno. And of course, as you saw in the end of the episode, spoiler alert, Jean Grey shows up, or is it Jean Grey, or is it Madeline Pryor? Now, here's the thing. I like how they've handled, like, putting Magneto in that purple costume and bringing him back as the leader of the X-Men after Charles Xavier dies, and it's in his will and testament, and then he surrenders himself to the UN. All of that happened in issue 200 of Uncanny X-Men. Now, it doesn't tell the story exactly how it did. Like, there's no Fenris Wolf in the cartoon. But it didn't tell it exactly, but it took some of the elements and it just boiled down to just some of the key stuff and threw it in the cartoon. I've heard some criticism online already, of course, because it's all going to start coming in. And, again, I really try to just discount the hyperbolic, clickbait of people just trying to get clicks and people being contrarians for the reason just to be contrarians. Because, like, I heard one where this girl, she was just I'm not going to name any names, but this girl in this video was just going off and trying to, like, totally escalate, like, all of this stuff that really wasn't in the show. And it's just like, come on. I gotta tell you, she has the most annoying voice, too. You probably know who I'm talking about. All I gotta say is, from my own personal experiences, I would hate to be her kids when she's, like, in her 80s and she has dementia. I would hate to have to be around her. I'm not really going to explain what that means, but maybe you can draw your own conclusions to that. But just listen to her voice, and then imagine being her kids and having to take care of her when she's old and, and is not with it anymore. And that voice just gets amplified to 11. Anyways, and the way she thinks. But anyways, so back to the story at hand. So Inferno. Like I said, it looks like they're going to borrow elements of Inferno for this new cartoon for episode 3. I don't know how much of it. I know the action figure is called Goblin Queen for Madeline Pryor, so obviously she's going to do the whole Goblin Queen thing from Inferno. I don't know if they're going to have the demons in it. I don't know if Malice, Lorna Dane, Polaris, which I would like to see. I'd like to see her show up. I don't know if she's going to show up with Mr. Sinister. I don't know if the Marauders are going to show up. I don't know what's going to happen in this episode 3. If you've seen it, don't tell me. I want to know myself. Find out Wednesday. But and I don't even know if it's going to even be just one episode. It might be a couple of episodes. Who knows? But I know Mr. Sinister's been in it. I know there's a Goblin Queen action figure. There's a whole thing with having the, obviously, if you read the comics, Nathan, the baby of Scott Summers, the son of Scott Summers, is not Jean Grey's child. It's Madeline Pryor's, and that actually happened before Inferno. And then of course the Goblin Queen, as happens in the story, she goes and she tries to, she takes back her son, and then she's going to sacrifice. She's gone pretty much crazy at that point, and she's going to sacrifice her son so she can be like the queen of the universe, whatever. I can't remember exactly how they say it in here, but it's in the book. But let me click over. I'm just going to show you. I got PDFs of the issues, which are just scans, and you'll see here. So there's the cover of Inferno Ignite. So technically, it's if you look at the advertisements, it always shows that there's 4 issues of it, starting with 240. But Inferno Ignites, or Ignite Inferno, is issue 239, and this comes right after. I can't put the issue. I don't have the issue on hand. Oh, maybe it's in here. This comes about right after. Right. Is it 238? I think it's issue 238 of the X-Men. Yeah, 238, duh, because it's right before 239. What's funny, too, is there's a lot of things that I've just totally forgotten about. Like, they're talking about, like, that weird, the dark romance between Rogue and Magneto that's in the cartoon, right? The X-Men 97, right? I'm like, going, oh, that's... And I got all excited, and I thought, oh, that's right, that happened in the... I've totally forgot about that. It's probably one of the most iconic, with Rogue on, in Savage Lands, and she's got the ripped-up costume and everything. And then, she teams up with Magneto. That whole... I forgot all about that. I tell you, there's just so much lore that it's funny, because when I saw that again, it's like I learned, it's like a new thing, realizing, oh, they already did that. But I want to see where it goes, too. I want to see how they handle it. Just like I want to see how they handle this with Sinister and Pryor, or Maddie, as I like to call her. And there she is on the cover. And, of course, she's got, what's his face? Scott's brother, Havoc. What the hell's his first name? Summers. I can't remember his first name is. But Havoc is Cyclops' brother. Sorry, it's that time of day again. That's when I record my videos too, unfortunately. So, like I said, when I'm awake and 100%, I gotta do work. So this stuff always comes secondary to that. All of the issues of the X-Men for Inferno also were all done by Mark Silvestri, which is another reason why I like it. And I love his art, and I love his version of the X-Men. Like I said, to me, they're my favorite versions. I love Arthur Adams, too, and I think Arthur Adams does a great job, but I would say Arthur Adams is a strong number 2 for me. Silvestri, for me, is the ultimate X-Men artist. Because I just love the characters. Of course, there's Sinister. I did watch a video guy talking about this, and he obviously didn't grow up in that time period. He sounds like he's probably a young millennial or an early whatever zennial. I know I'm using all the terms. It's just the easiest way for me to say it. But this guy's probably in his early 30s, I'm thinking. And just listening to him talk about a lot of the things in this too, it's just there's no a question that people of my generation think so much different. This is kind of, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. Young people today think so different than when I was young. and of course, it's vice versa with my parents. It's just a fact of life. It just happens. And things that he was dwelling on and picking up on and stuff like that from this is just like, have you read comics before? One of his thing was he thought he was like, when I was young and I first read this, okay, he's like, I thought Mr. Sinister was a drag queen because of his outfit, because he's got thigh-high boots on. He's got thigh-high boots and he has ankle boots. It's his outfit makes you think he's a drag queen? What? I was like, okay. It's an outrageous costume, but I mean, all of the comic costumes were they all drag queens? I don't know. Some people say just stuff that I find just literally, utterly retarded. And I know that's not PC to say anymore, too, because it was totally, that's how we used to refer to things when I was young, as it was retarded. Yeah, it's, yeah, just some of the comments and stuff that he made about it, too, is just like, really? There's a couple of scenes in here, and I'll show you where, like, people kiss Jean Grey. It's like, oh, it's non-consensual kissing. It's just like, it's non-consensual killing when somebody in a story ends up shooting somebody. It's non-consensual. I went to war. All the enemy soldiers are shooting at me. Right? I didn't consent to them shooting at me. Oh my God. Sorry. Again, we're from different time periods. let's just leave it at that. We think differently. There's Lorna Dane, which of course is Polaris, which she's Malice in this. So Sinister's controlling her at this time. She's kind of gone crazy too, and I really like that version of Lorna. I really like Polaris a lot. Maybe it's the green hair. I don't know what it is, but I really like. I'm not a huge fan of the outfit per se. Like these big things here, I could do without. But the tight cat suit with the boots, and of course the rogue hair, the skunk hair as I call it. And then she's got the angle. I love that angle of the face with that like skunk curl. Just imagine this hair brown with the white in the middle. That'd be rogue. And then she's got this mask on there, and she's got the whited out eyes. I just love that look. I think that looks so cool. And again, for me, that's what I like. That's when I think of Inferno, when I think of Malice, or think of Polaris from Inferno, I don't really care about her characterization, and I don't really care about what's going on with her character in the story. I mean, to some extent, just to kind of give it a little bit of context, but I just love the way she looks. I just think Sinister looks cool. He doesn't look like a transvestite to me, or a drag queen to me. He just looks like he looks like Colossus. If anything, that was my statement. I said when I first saw him, I was like, is that Colossus? What's with Colossus' new costume? See how he's got the arms, the armor bands, just like Colossus had? I literally thought that was Colossus. Yeah, like Vampire Colossus. I didn't know who that was when I first saw him. And then I really like Vertigo for obvious reasons. But I mean, I always liked the girl. But in the Marauders, I always thought Vertigo just looked cool. She had that all tight bodysuit with all the swirls and stuff. I still want to get that action figure at some point, but I don't want to buy the whole set. So, like I said, I'm not going to get into this. I'm going to get some of the spoilers, some of the story I'll talk about, but not all of it. There's Dazzler, of course. Yeah, you got. I mean, it's a stuff. Look at the cast on that as far as the credits. You've got Chris Claremont, Mark Silvestri, Dan Green, Tom Brzezinski, who's the letterer, Glynis Oliver is color, which I think Glynis. And didn't Glynis? Is it Glynis Oliver who married Len Wein, and then she was Glynis Wein? I can't remember. I know Len's dead. Len passed away, but I can't remember about her. Bob Harris, of course, editor. and then Tom DeValco bouncer, which is funny. Um, but I love the way he. This is why I think I gravitated towards the women so much at this time. I love the way Silvestri drew women. Um, he just had a way of making them look really appealing. You know, and the guys look cool too. Yeah, and I loved his shorthand. It was a comic book trope, of course, shorthand to do shiny stuff, but just the way he would do the shorthand for shiny, like with Colossus and various characters had shiny bits. I liked the way he drew Storm. I don't think there's people have criticized him for having too loose of a style, too scratchy. Like I said, you got to get this shit done. You gotta move. You got deadlines to meet. So you're gonna. But if you look at his compositions and stuff, I mean, sure, some of the stuff is quick and scratchy, but I mean, what's his face? If anything, this is like the prototype for Jim Lee's stuff. I mean, Jim Lee just basically tightened up. That's always considered Jim Lee. Jim Lee's just a tight version of Silvestri, is all he is. Where Silvestri's more loosey-goosey. I love that drawing too there. I love Psylocke, Elizabeth Braddock in this. I love when she was English and she had the armor. She had like the knight armor, and she was like the psychic knight with the cape and everything. That's my favorite version. I mean, sure, the ninja when she turned Asian became ninja Psylocke. I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, that's a very sexy outfit, and you would think, hey, I like the girls. You think I'd gravitate for that? It's great and all, but I really love this character because this is my original first, when I first saw her, it was in this comic, and I just loved that look. I love the way. Look at the way the Colossus is drawn. I gotta say, Colossus fit. If you look at him visually, he is probably, like I said, I love Wolverine. I think he's cool, but I gotta say, Colossus visually is probably one of the coolest visual characters to look at and watch how he's drawn. And Silvestri is just stellar at him. I love the close-up of Rogue's eyes there. Now, see, I always assumed Rogue just had green eyes, but if you look at, like, the cartoon, they've got her with, like, blue eyes. People have drawn her with brown eyes. For the longest time for me, I always thought Rogue had... he drew with blue eyes there, or the colorist, Glynis, colored her eyes down there. I don't know if they do the green just to kind of... like in the close-ups because of her costume. I love this. Not just because it's Rogue's butt, but I mean, see how it's like you got the hip bone here and the way he draws the leg curled up like this. And then the foreshortening of that leg like that. I just think that looks so amazing. Just little things like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be, Rogue's butt. I mean, it could be, arms and stuff like that. And there's certain ways, calves. I really love the way, you'll see some of the ways he draws calves. It just has a certain way to draw, like the muscle in the calf that just looks, like I said, I look at the stuff visually. It's appealing. Of course, here we go now. What's her face? She's going to take her armor off and go down to whatever the heck that is she's wearing. Is that a nightie? I don't know. Why would she be wearing a nightie? I guess it's underwear? I don't know what this is. Looks like a nightie to me. But anyways, here. So there's other things. See, look at the way he draws calves. So it's like this one long line that goes into the ankle. And then he's hinting at the, I can't remember what that's called, in the back of your knee. Where it kind of has the two lines. And there's like a, feel back of your knee. Or look at your back of your knee when you're standing. It's got like that look to it. It's got it. I should know the part, but it's a part, and I love when people put that in there. Not a lot of people draw that in there. I try to put it in there sometimes. I don't always put it in myself. That right there, just that look, just the stance of Rogue, sitting there is awesome. And I love Colossus's reaction when she's pulling the armor off. I like little things like that. I think I like the little drama. I like that part, which I guess is technically story and storytelling, but I like all the little, those little quicks, or whatever you want to call them. See the way it's got a way of drawing women. I mean, and dudes. I mean, he draws in monsters. I mean, he draws everything great. There's Maddie. So Maddie seduces, she didn't have to do much, because I know he's secretly in love with Jean Grey. And of course Maddie, of course, is a clone of Jean. And she seduces him, but I don't think it takes much to seduce him. He was ready to jump in the sack with her to begin with. It's funny how, too, it's like, obviously this stuff isn't going to make it into the cartoon, because the cartoon is for kids and it's meant to sell toys, right? At least that's what I think it's for. That's what the original X-Men cartoon was for, is to sell Toy Biz action figures. This new one it's a nostalgic hit. It's meant to sell Hasbro action figures to adults. I don't think it's going to sell it to kids. But they're putting in like this weird kind of like pseudo-adult drama, soap opera-y stuff, with, somebody's sleeping with who. I don't think they're going to get into that. I mean, obviously, whoever it is, if it's Madeline or it's Jean, it's probably Madeline, not Jean. Jean shows up. Who had the baby in the episode. Obviously, you can only make a baby one way, for the most part. Well, I guess maybe, technically, you do artificial insemination. I don't know. Immaculate conception. I don't know. But anyways, obviously, Scott and it's either Maddie or what's her face, they made a baby, right? So somebody slept with somebody. And like I said, it's not even like softcore pornography. It's like it's all implied. Obviously, she sneaks. I mean, it's great how they do it too. It's like, she, I can't remember what she said. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but yeah, she sneaks in there, and then of course, they disappear into the hotel room in a silhouette, and then, and then obviously she wakes up in the middle of the night, he's sleeping. They did it. But, I mean, that's the extent. That's all you really need to do. I mean, if you really want to watch, them go at it, sure, commission some not safe for work fan art, pornography, or comic books. I know a person who could do that for you, too, by the way. Sorry, that's the wrong issue. There we go. 240. So Enter the Marauders again, of course. And you've got they go into this kind of backstory here. There are a lot of Ghostbusters references in here. In '89, I know Ghostbusters 2 came out in '89. They seem to be more referencing the first movie, and I know the Real Ghostbusters cartoon was going on at this time. It might have actually been finishing up '89, I can't remember, but a lot of Ghostbusters references in here, which is kind of funny. Like this crew, they're supposed to almost be like, they're looking for ghosts. I think they're looking for demons. They're looking for the demons that are on the loose. And then, I don't know if you guys know who this is. I kind of talked about him in my Down Under X-Men video. By the way, I've done a Fall of the Mutants, which is okay. I'll probably redo it. And then there's the Down Under X-Men that I talk about, which of course is my favorite lineup. Just look at the way he draws her. I gotta say, Maddie's outfit is pretty hot. They're definitely, looking at the action figure, they definitely cleaned up Maddie's character quite a bit, because there's no way they're gonna do this version of her, but and I'm surprised this stuff got through back then too, but I guess Marvel really didn't seem to care at that time, and nobody else did. But her costumes, I mean, she's pretty much naked from, if you remove, I mean, pretty much if her, boobs popped out of there, she's got a thong on, like a crazy thong on, and she's got thigh highs, so she's naked pretty much for all the good parts, and then everything else is covered. So, I mean, obviously, I guess it's not a thong. I guess it's a full backed, whatever, bikini bottom. Not to be confused with bikini bottom from SpongeBob SquarePants. But anyways, yeah. This is too. See, I would have drawn the crease on her butt here. It's just that's how I draw. But I just like the fact that he didn't. That just has a cool. That's a bold to do that. But the thing is, you still get the visual effect of what you're looking at right there. I just think that's cool. I think that's neat. Tasteful, some people call it. And there's this funny scene when Rogue, she's out roller skating, and she's Dazzler's. She's kind of flirting with Longshot, and of course Dazzler likes Longshot, so she kind of steps in, and there's here we go. There's another love triangle here. I don't think it's a love triangle. I don't think Rogue was really super into Longshot. I think she was just flirtatious, and of course it pisses off Dazzler. And then of course now, what's his face? Colossus, Petra. He's obviously got a thing for Psylocke, and he's in there doing the whole Titanic thing. He's drawing her nude because he's an artist, and it's it's a nice romantic thing going on here. And then Rogue comes flying in because she's blinded by the Dazzler light. She's blinded by the light, wrapped up like a goose in another runner in the night. Anyway, she comes flying in, and then she ruins the scene. And I don't like the way her butt's drawn there. I think it's a little too goofy. I don't like those shirts either. But I guess, again, if I was drawing the comic book, it would have never got printed. And of course, there she is with her goblins. The Marauders are still, I can't remember what they're doing at this point, I forgot. I just read this too, sorry. Again, I'm not going to tell you the story, you can read it yourself, but my whole thing is and again, the story is hokey and goofy, and here's the other thing is, when this came out, so this is a good thing to tell you. When this came out, again, remember, I know I keep saying this, and I'm not trying to gain sympathy or anything, but I couldn't read very well, right? I know it seems goofy to keep bringing that up, but I mean, I gotta put things in context. You gotta realize, those of you who could, or maybe those people who had similar disposition to me, is that puts you in a certain situation when it comes to things with words in it. Even though it's a comic book, it's still a book that tells a story, right? And if you can't read very well, you're going to miss a lot of things. And it took me the longest time to fully digest, not just Fall of the Mutants, Inferno, all of the X-Men comics. It took me a long time to digest them, to actually, and I still have holes in my knowledge of what's happening, just because it didn't make a lot of sense to me as a kid. And reading this comic, it was so convoluted, and so just had so many things. Like I said, so like when people say, the comics back then were dumb too, it's like, yeah, they were, and they were convoluted back then too. And a young person who's got poor reading skills is trying to read this comic. It's just like, what the hell is going on? And obviously, if I'm not reading the Fall of the Mutants and then sort of reading X Factor, I'm missing a lot of the story too. I mean, I basically had to rely on friends. One particular, my Ruther friend, I had to rely on friends to kind of fill the holes. And I remember asking the question, so what's going on? What was going on? I don't get why this happened, right? And he read them all, and he understood them, and he was like, "Oh no, it's because of this and this and this," and so it wasn't. You get by with a little help from your friends. I guess that's the That's the song to sing. I couldn't fully understand it. It didn't take. I don't think I fully understood Inferno. Let's just stick with Inferno. Until like my late 20s, reading this in college. When I went back to college in my late 20s, that's when I read this again, and it wasn't until then that I had to read a lot of stuff for college, so I was like in a very reading mode. But I ended up reading all of these, and I'm like, okay, and I read them all too. The New Mutants, everything. Well, I read this because it had all of it in it, and it's like, oh, and it was almost like reading something new for the first time. I had pored over these pages, redrew many panels, and I got the gist of what's going on basically between the art and just reading, the captions, Wolverine to Varnish, or however he says, look out. I could get, like, I understood what's happening in the instance, right? But to put it all together and to kind of get what's going on, it was too much for me to digest in my teenage years with, and having poor reading skills. It's bad when you can't read and you can barely understand a comic book. I mean, I could understand somebody being shitty at reading, like novels, which I was as well, but I had, and people would read comic books because they're easier than novels. I had trouble reading comic books, so, and especially Claremont stuff seemed to be very, I like it, but the thing is, it's definitely sort of a difficult read. And some of the criticism, and I've given the same criticism, which I don't know why I gave the criticism, because it doesn't really make any sense, is, the Claremont stuff was so much better than doing it the cartoon way. The cartoon kind of dumbed it down for kids. It did. Again, remember, their whole point was to sell action figures. Sell lunchboxes. Sell, have people have X-Men birthday parties with X-Men napkins and X-Men cakes. And that's what it was for. And so the thing is, it was dumbed down for kids. I understood cartoons. I could watch G.I. Joe, Transformers, all of them. I understood those. Even ones were more sophisticated, like Robotech. I understood it because it was spoon-fed to you, pretty much. And, it's funny. It's like, I think that, I was said this before in the video earlier, when I watched the Dark Phoenix and the Rise of the Phoenix on the original X-Men animated series from the 90s, I was like, and then I went back and I read the issues of it. I'm like, going, man, the issues are so convoluted. And they're so, like, they didn't seem fun to read. It's like, I like the cartoon better. I like the way the cartoon explained it a lot better. It dumbed it down, sure, but I liked that. And so, here we go. If next Wednesday's episode of X-Men 97 is the dumbed-down version of Inferno, which it's obviously can't encompass all of, because a lot of things are going to have to happen if they're going to do full-out Inferno, which I know they're not going to do. But they're probably gonna focus on the love triangle with Maddie and Scott and Jean, and they'll probably use elements from the story. Especially her being Goblin Queen, she's probably gonna want to take the baby. That whole thing's most likely gonna happen. Sinister's gonna be there. He's gonna manipulate the whole thing. Sinister's probably going to, hopefully they'll have the Marauders, and Malice would be nice. At least give me Malice. Or Vertigo. Vertigo or Malice. Any girl with green hair. Give me a green-haired villainess, and I will be happy. Whether it's Malice or Vertigo. Vertigo might be a hard one to do. I think doing her outfit is probably going to be hard for them to do as far as making it look, toning it down. They have to do a lot of swirls to cover up curves. Yeah, can I have at least one of those two characters, which would be nice. I don't know what's going to happen, because there's no action figure announced, and not to say that that's why, they have to have an action figure for them to show up, but it would be nice. Well, actually, they don't have a Sinister action figure out yet. He's going to be in it, so they might. I don't know. We shall see. But my point is that I don't mind the dumbed down version. If it's easier to digest, if it's like a pill to swallow. If you can coat it in chocolate, I'll take it. If I got to swallow it dry, a big horse pill dry, which is these comics, I think I'll take the chocolate coated pill better. Speaking of Malice, I love that. I just love that. I love the way. And the other thing is, I love how he gave her she's got the hair like Rogue, right? But in order to make it different, he gave her it's almost like a curly version of it. And then it's like at the time nobody was drawing like this, and that just looked so amazing. And I always that look. I do that look a lot. I think that's the end of that issue. Again, try to read these in sequence. There's the. I'll probably use this for the. Definitely use this for the cover. Give people it's clickbait. Anyways, yeah. I mean that cover with Maddie on the cover and her in that outfit. That was pretty much like whoa. At last, the startling secret of Madeline Pryor. Well, she doesn't have a secret there. We pretty much know her whole story there. As when she confronts Sinister, she wants to lead I can't remember. She wants to be rule the demon dimension or limbo or whatever. I can't remember. He challenges Sinister, even though Sinister's it was kind of his orchestration. He's the one who cloned her in the first place. And then she's gonna sick her bad guys on him, and then he chains her up. We got all kinds of crazy bondage action here, which is pretty insane. And they showed that page before of this, but I really love this double page spread. I love these. Some people hate these. They're like, I hate when they just do a bunch of poses and they put their names. It's like, well, yeah, but now I know who everybody is. In case you didn't know, these are your heroes. And again, this is my favorite lineup of the X-Men. Wolverine, Havoc, Longshot, Psylocke, Colossus, Rogue, Dazzler, and Storm. That is my favorite X-Men lineup right there, which I just refer to it as the Down Under X-Men. And I really love that drawing of Vertigo. Really like it. Not a bad drawing. I think her legs are a little overposed here. Obviously, wanted to get that gun in, and then I don't know how I would have. I guess I probably would have. Well, I guess I would have to do the same thing. So I would have probably maybe shot a foot, brought the knee up higher and then tucked it back behind the leg, and then I don't know. I probably would have done it a little different. I'm just not a huge fan of the legs. I mean, the top. If you cut like that off, the top looks great. And again, like this, more like this. I would have tucked her knee, or he does this a lot. A lot of people do this. Everybody's got it apparently. Her legs. It looks like they screwed up the coloring there, but her legs tucked. Her legs tucked up. Her legs tucked back. I like that. That's a crazy shot of her there. Oh my goodness. Again, lots of Ghostbuster-esque things with, the guy trying to mail a letter and the thing eats his hand, and you got the fire hydrant beating the crap out of the dog for peeing on him. I thought that's pretty funny. And then things just kind of go. This almost looks like Mike Mignola's stuff, which is pretty weird. Again, I know I keep dwelling on the same thing, but that's just how I am. But anyways, but that little space there, and then the way he's got her hips cocked back, and everything's silhouette except for the top of her hips, because her pelvis is kicked way back, and then the light's hitting the top. But I love that. That's just so cool. That's a great, again, tucked the leg. But I really like that Rogue. She's a little too long, but I mean, I still get it. I don't know what's... Oh, he's got his hand on his face. I was like, that's a pretty bad face, but I think he's got his hand on his face. He is really known for doing this. You don't see a lot of this anymore. Is this... I might have mentioned this in another video. I'm talking about drawing. Is this... I call it like the S curve. So it's like you kick the... Like there's... Imagine like these two sectors. Like here's a sector for her chest, right? And then her... Say her upper chest, lower chest, upper abdomen, lower abdomen, and then pelvis, right? And then of course legs or thighs. So what he does is the pelvis is kicked way back, right? And then it also makes, but he's keeping the lower abdomen almost straight to where it almost like it's like she's bending completely over, but then he kicks back the upper abdomen back, and then the lower chest, which always has, it's the same plane, has her jubblies there. He pulls back on the on that, so it kind of kicks that out and sticks her chest out, and then he kind of brings the upper chest kind of forward to kind of curl the shoulders forward. So and then stretching the left and right collars back that far, right? It just has a certain like S look to it. That's why I call it the S look. And he was probably the best at it, is making that S look, and I like that. It's just very appealing, I mean, obviously it's supposed to be sexy, but it's sexy without being like overt. It's just got an appealing look to it. That's kind of how I try to draw my characters. I kick the hips back. I do a lot of the same posing principles. It's in my vocabulary from looking at comics like these, and that's how I approach it nowadays. Like the contrapposto, contrapposto is a good thing, and you should always have it to kind of show the weight of the character. I like a lot of like things that are straight, that don't have contrapposto. It all depends on where it's used. Some places, and most of the time, I'd say 8 times out of 10, contrapposto is which is like asymmetry of the spine, how the spine and the hips kind of are put together. If you read go watch my video on how to draw comics the Marvel way, but specifically read that book too, and they talk about that. And I would say 8 out of 10 times you want some contrapposto to kind of create some interest. Don't be so static. But sometimes it requires, I like a nice symmetrical pose that's static, because it has a character to it, and I like that character sometimes. But again, I wouldn't overuse it. It starts drawing Storm kind of crazy evil. Her head's really long, and Wolverine starts to. They're all starting. All the X-Men are starting to get, possessed by the demons. They're kind of doing. Their bidding. But when they start getting evil, they start looking cool. It's a good shot of battle in there. I love the silhouette of the chains breaking. I think that looks really cool. I like this too. That's got a cool effect. I love the way she's holding the baby too with her hand like that, and that devious look on her face. I love that. This is awesome. That's pretty hard shadow there, but I get it. So she's got the baby now. It's a 242. Of course, that's the cover there. So now you got X Factor jumping in. I mean, X Factor has their versions, their issues for this series too, but X Factor is going to get involved here. It's the first non-consensual kiss. Wolverine just grabs. For one thing, he's possessed, and I don't think he's possessed yet at this point. I can't remember exactly, but he kisses Jean against her wishes. Oh my God! For shame! Oh my Lord! How could Wolverine do such a thing? And that was the whole point, is he caught her off guard, you know, but she's obviously not, she's mental, she could destroy Wolverine with her mind, right? Obviously she's not, because she's, I guess I would call it dubcon, dubious consent, you know, secretly down, she really wants Wolverine because of the love triangle, and then he catches her off guard with this kiss. It's just like, I don't know, the comment the guy said was just like, whatever, dude. I find myself, either it's not just dude and dude-ass, like, I find myself saying that a lot to people on the internet nowadays, is whatever. See, here's a go. See how he draws, this is not uncommon, and Byrne would do this too, but the way he draw calves into the ankle and stuff, this is pretty exaggerated here, but I just like the way that looks. And then, oh, that's just some more non-consensual kissing. Well, that's, okay, if it wasn't for non-consensual kissing, Rogue wouldn't use her powers. That's what she does. She jumps up on somebody and she catches them off guard because she's so hot, right? And somebody's like, oh my god, this hot chick just jumped on me and she's going to kiss me. Of course that's going to stun you for a minute, right? And when you're stunned, then she can move in for the kill and use her powers, right? You didn't consent to that. But you're also kind of blown away by the you know, the effect too. Like, it takes you a minute to realize what's happening, and by the time it's, you know, she already got your powers. There's a lot of kissing in this issue, because I think, yeah, there's a lot of kissing there. She ends up, this is when Longshot kind of goes after Dazzler, her, you know, obviously the book's trying to, it's kind of reaching its climax. She's still toying around with Havoc there. That's a great Colossus drawing. Neck's a little long, but I mean, it's okay. The stylization is fine. Great shot. See, look at this stuff is great. As far as the action scenes, again, I like some action. I like some weight to my action. I don't have to have nonstop action. Like I said, I like the drama. I like all the, you know, I like all of the interpersonal drama. But I do like a good, you know, a fastball special. But anyways, look at that pose of Beast. He's silhouetting the back legs, foreshortening it. Got his shadow here. He's off the ground with this throw of this huge boulder. Rogue's ripping this tree out of the ground. And then she whacks, you know, she gives it a crack, knocks it out of the park. That's just great. Great action sequences. And that right there where he's just flying like that with that, you know, very shorthand, you know, pose like that. That's great. That's really good. I don't know if that was executed entirely well on his part. Again, here, see that see, look at, there's Psylocke. It seems like a lot of times they would put them in like those corsets or leotards or whatever, where they're out of the hips, very hippie, and you get that S curve. A lot of thigh highs too, but you get that S curve like that. I think that looks great. I mean, Jean's got it too. This would be less. This is a good example. So this with Dazzler here, this is not very S curvy. This is pretty static, but that's more of a dynamic body curve. And obviously that's more appealing than this, even though she's definitely an appealing character. That's a great Wolverine right there. I mean, this is almost getting into, I'm not a huge Walt Simonson fan, but you could tell he's definitely looking at Walt's work when he's working on this too, and he's doing the X Factor too, so he's probably looking at a lot of Walt's X Factor to, you know, for reference, and he's really channeling some Walt here, which again, I'm not a huge fan of Walt, but I could definitely respect the stuff. That's great. I like when so if you draw her eyebrow, it's almost like Spock's eyebrow, but I don't know, turned up to 11, and then you get the, I don't know if it's makeup or it's the last end of her um, her eyelashes, but it gives this whip up like that. I think that looks cool. Kind of, yeah, see what I mean? Almost looks very Shi'ar Empire-y, Lalandra-y. But I like that kind of. Wait, see Storm? She's got the S curve. Shoulders back, chest pushed out, rib cage pushed out, hips back, legs tucked up. I mean, even standing. I mean, even Madeline. It's a little more static, but even standing, she still's got sort of an S curve there. Sylvester really likes to do the close-ups. Sorry, we hit an hour, so I'm going to wrap this up. We're almost done anyways. But Sylvester really likes to do the close-ups and really do the detail in the eyes. I like that. I like that a lot. I like, see her, see, she's got like her. Remember what I was saying about Rogue? I like the black bodysuit. So it's almost like it's, you know, if that was skin, she'd be like crazy thong, you know, cheeky action there, right? But you don't see that because she's got this black bodysuit, because the black bodysuit protects her from stealing people's powers and they touch her skin. So I like that, and you can do a lot with that, with silhouetting and stuff, and still have a sexy, you know, butt shot without having it gratuitous. I think that's just awesome. Those boots are amazing. See, that's the other thing that's good. Like I said, calves and the boots. I know I'm just geeking out on this and just from an artist point of view and perving out a little bit at the same time. But I mean, this is I just, like I said, I love art. I love comic book art, and I love this artist, and I love these characters. And when I see all these little things, it just, you know, that's what gets me excited. Even more so than a nice butt shot. It's this stuff. It's the art, the stylization, which really gets me excited. And, you know, you still get good art today, and there's still good stylization. I just like, because of the way they were doing it, they were not relying on computer colors, using the flat, simple color system. They use a lot more heavy blacks. You could be loosey-goosey. I just liked that better. I like the shorthand for a lot of things. And I'm pretty finished. If you look at my art's pretty polished, and I don't really go loosey-goosey. I try to free up. I try to get my wrist going and try to free up, you know, and go loose. But I get so heavy-handed sometimes, and too rigid myself. I like, you know, it's a struggle. It's a constant struggle I have with my own artwork, of trying to just let go and loosen up, and it's hard for me to do. I mean, your hair is just crazy out of control there. I love that. I love it, though. A lot of people hate that look. I mean, Storm even had this haircut. A lot of people hate this skunk cut or whatever, skunk hair or whatever. I don't know why you call it skunk hair. It doesn't look like a skunk. I guess Rogue's, because she's got the discolor, is, you know, the different two-tone hair, but I just call it more like the wolf cut, or I don't know, whatever. I always call it Rogue hair, is what I really always call it. It's the Rogue hair. It's Rogue hair. A lot of people don't like that S-curve. A lot of people don't like that. I love it. It's my favorite. Like, just the back of Rogue's hair with that, where it's got the skunk line going down, and then you've got that with the feathering of the hair. Oh, I just love that. Love it. Love it. Sorry. Again, you know, the story is stupid, but the art is awesome, in my opinion. And that's coming from a comic book artist. Silhouetting like that, and you got Silvestri knows what he's doing. There's just a straight up butt shot of Jean there in that red X Factor costume. Remember what I was saying about the costumes? I like the green one better, but the red one's cool too. I like the X Factor costume the best, probably for obvious reasons. Although her new costume, or her one costume in the 90s, it's pretty. I mean, she's pretty much wearing stretchy pants in that one too. But maybe it's like the red, or like the way everything goes there. So let me wrap up the last issue real quick. Kind of finish this up. There we go. They're kind of it ends kind of abruptly too. There, that costume. Oh, I love that too. I love this panel right here. But that costume's my favorite. I like the cap. I like the skull cap. I for some reason just like that look. But the skull cap with the red hair in the back, and the green and the yellow. That's my favorite Marvel Girl costume, hands down, is this costume right here. Which I'll call it the Jackson Geis, or the X Factor Gen 1 costume. As Malice showing up. See the curliness in her rogue haircut? Love it. Love it. A couple of those are pretty gratuitous. But see what I mean? I mean, you can still do a shot like that, but you got that black. Obviously you don't have black here, so you're gonna show the lines and stuff, but I think that there's some of the butt shots are coming back in comics, and I'm glad to see it. But it seems like also it's very frowned upon and trying to be suppressed. But if it wasn't for a lot of good butt shots, I tell you, I probably wouldn't be as into comics as I am today. And obviously, this is the time period when there's lots of those. I know Frank Cho's always known for how many he cranks into one issue. Love that hair. Love it. Is that the last issue? I thought. Oh no! You know what? It actually ends in X Factor. That's right. I forgot. The actual last issue of the story is X Factor, which is Simonson doing the artwork, and it's good. I just don't like it as much. I liked Silvestri's art better, but yeah, that was the last panel. Oops. But like I said, it's worth the read. I would definitely read it. You know, whether you get it collected or you buy the issues or whatever, read it digitally. I would definitely read it. It's worth the read. If you could get it now and you haven't seen the third episode of 97, I would probably read it just to kind of get a feel for it. Like I said, I'm curious to see what happens next week. I'm genuinely excited. I haven't been this excited to see what's going to happen in a TV show because I have so much lore behind it. And I don't think forever. I mean, I guess what would be another show that you would have that much? I guess Mandalorian is probably about it. You know, because you know about all the Star Wars lore and you wanted to see what happens in the Mandalorian. But this is more so, you know. Like I said, you've got characters that are deeply ensconced in my id. I mean, sure, Star Wars stuff is too as well, but, you know. Like I said, this stuff came out just at the right time. I mean, 1989, I was in high school. I was a teenager. You know, I was 15? 16? 15, 16, right around there. You know, I was in high school. I was a teenager. I mean, I was, you know, teenagers are, especially teenage boys. I mean, this is how I was, and this is what I was digesting. You know, even if I had trouble digesting the story, I was still digesting the artwork big time. I mean, that's, you know, I mean, every little minute I could whip out a little Rogue drawing, or whip out a Polaris drawing, or whip out a, you know, and fill in the blank. Mostly the girls. I mean, I would draw Wolverine a lot, and I would draw Havoc. I'd love to draw Colossus, but really I like to draw the ladies. I would be, anytime I could just, even in sitting in school, I could just sit there and whip out I'd bring the comics with me. You know, the teacher would be talking, and I'd have the comics out on the desk, and they would, you know, yell at me for having comics out. I should be paying attention, but, you know, I'd be sitting there copying pictures of, you know, like this, oh, you can't see it now, but copying a drawing of, say, Malice into my notes. I mean, I probably have hundreds of little thumbnail drawings like that are on papers that are all long gone. You know, the teachers threw them out, I threw them out, whatever. But if I could have back all of those drawings, and I'm talking hundreds of, I wouldn't say thousands, but I definitely say hundreds of them. If I could have all of those back, you know, all those little pencil doodles and stuff that I did, I mean, I would love to, even if I couldn't keep them, even if somebody said, hey, here they are, look at them, enjoy them, but you got to get rid of them, right? Or you got to throw them away or give them back. That's fine. I just want to see them again, is all I want to do. I want to see them again. Like I said, there's so many. I mean, that's how I learned how to draw. I mean, I was literally, that's my craft was forming at that time. You know, I think, like I said, I seriously wanted to be a comic book artist in like 1985, 1986, and I, you know, that passion never left until I think early 90s, and then it kind of, I would say like 93, 94, passion kind of fell out. But again, a lot of things happened. This is also the time when the X-Men cartoons started. But it was all about the bubble bursting. But yeah, I've talked a lot on this one. I said I've definitely gone over my hour, so I could talk your ear off on this stuff, and I probably will do so. It's maybe not in this video. So again, like and subscribe if you like the stuff. Tell me your thoughts on things. You know, if you want to scold me for, you know, perving out on so many butt shots, you can do that too. I don't care. You know, I can take it. But you know, or if you want to talk shop on art, like I said, I mean, I love to talk shop on art, and I love listening to people who are interested in it and are, you know, especially young people. I'm a terrible teacher. I'm not good at teaching people, but I love talking about it. And in talking about it, you probably learn a few things without me necessarily teaching you. And there's just tiny little details and stuff that, you know, only an artist would know. And like I said, if you're of like mind, you'll know why I hyper focus on just these tiny little lines and little marks everywhere. And it's just because that's the stuff I directly draw to, because that's the stuff that's in my hand and in my vocabulary, and I'm constantly trying to perfect my craft, you know, every single, and I literally do perfect it almost every day. I mean, it's my full-time job, so that's what I do all day, is try to perfect that craft and get every little, you know, thing. Like I said, I need to loosen up, and I keep telling myself that. And it's hard to loosen up. I think digitally too, it's hard to loosen up because you want to make everything so it looks so perfect. But all right, I'll let you guys go. Remember, like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you on the next video. I'm recording this Friday, but I'll probably post it on Monday. I probably won't post any videos over the weekend. I might record some, but that'll be my cachet for next week. All right, I'll catch you later, and see you on the next one.